I think we've got to just sort of address the elephant in the room.
What?
The connections between this podcast and Second Dinner, the company that makes this game, have increased. We are a little bit more compromised than we previously were. We are a little bit more shill heavy than we previously were. And I think that, you know, we all know what we're talking about here. It's that I got to reveal the Gambit OTA 2 days before it happened. That's what we're talking about here. Nothing else meaningfully changed in terms of our relationship to the company that makes this game. Not I can't think of anything. Can you think of anything that like meaningfully changed? It doesn't really like, nothing else happened, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, nothing really happened. ItsGuestGaming did not get hired as Brady's goon. He didn't get hired as the marketing grunt work man. That didn't happen. And really all that happened was that I got to preview the OTA, which, you know, first of all, you know, good on them for being like, hey, let's get the information that we're changing Gambit out there when we put $100 bundle out that has Gambit in it. That's a good thing for them to do.
Yes.
Bad for them that they found themselves in that exact situation 2 times in a month. Like, there probably should be some guy going through on the back end, flagging all of the potentially balance changeable bundles. And, you know, now that you're there, that sounds like a thing that you're probably going to have to do. So good luck.
Might as well, you know, if you're going to put the plate out there to be fed, you only got to make one stop at the buffet. Just load it all on and then
you and I have different buffet methodologies, clearly.
I have the fat man methodology, which is I need as few trips with as much return on my investment as possible.
Interesting. You're gamering it, right? You're doing like the EV calculations for like, yeah, you're min-maxing net calories. I don't want to lose any calories by walking. I can't have that happen.
It's not about calorie burn. It's about lazy fat ass. Like, it's just nothing more than that. That's the gamer side more than anything. Is I just don't want to get up from my chair.
It's such a nice thing as a streamer that the only part of you that's visible is like pecs and up. I feel like that does so many people so many favors, myself included. You know what I mean? Like, you only get the good part. You don't see anything below here. It's just a really big upgrade visually, I think, for a lot of people.
I think I don't know. It's hard for me to say that because I've, as many of my community know, the Taxi and Harvey cam, aka crotch cam, aka second dinner cam, aka all that. So
why is it second dinner cam? Did something happen?
Ben Brode's been spying on me for a long ass time. Dude, my brain is shut. It's been.
I'm glad you're so detail oriented. It's really like you know what's really going to be fun for me is like now anytime you mess anything up, I'll be like, wow, Second Dinner really sending their best. Like just anytime. Yeah. I just get to do that. It's so free. I just get to do that for everything.
I should just buy you a softball.
Yeah, and then I can just hold it up whenever it's just like I don't even like you know, like buy me some visual representation of low hanging fruit, so I can just be like, here, and then like we all know what it is. I don't even have to say it. Just, you know, it's right there.
As long as it's a BlackBerry,
like the phone.
No, as in like the AI fruit slop.
Oh, right, of course. Sure. I forgot.
It's got to be.
I forgot.
It has to be just a
connotations. Sure.
A cardboard cutout of that little BlackBerry.
Yeah.
Great.
Yeah.
I'm not opposed to it. So I'm actually going to open the podcast with, I got a bone to pick with you.
Didn't we already open the podcast?
We probably did. But
okay.
At some point, there's always a cold open. But
right. I thought that's what it was. I thought we did that, and then now you're opening the podcast again.
This is what a YouTube video does. It creates multiple loops. In our instance, we have multiple
in
15
opens. Minutes, I'm gonna say I'm gonna open the podcast.
That's totally fine.
Okay.
I got a bone to pick with you because I've been watching a lot of repetition come out of your content with one specific thing, and I'm gonna speak on at least my behalf, as well as the behalf of all those that have more than 2 brain cells. And I'm going to specifically say 2 because I know where your argument would go next.
6 or 7?
No. You gotta stop telling the community that they're stupid. Because those who play the Captain Carter deck with Silver Surfer in it, at this point, it's been in 6 different videos that you have specifically said repeatedly, people don't know how to play the deck because they play it like a surfer deck. And I've heard this take so many times.
Yes.
That I'm going to specifically say 2 brain cell people understand it now. They get it.
But they understand it because of that repetition. Like every time, like the reason I kept doing it, it's not something that I want to keep doing. I kept doing it because every time I did it, there would be someone in the comments like, thank you for explaining that. Like it's not a question on like the community being stupid. It has nothing to do with the community being stupid. It has everything to do with not everyone watches all of my videos. And I have to make content for the person who maybe watches 1 KM best video a week. And I want them to come away from that video with an understanding of how to actually play the deck. And if you look at that and you see a surfer deck, you're going to have the incorrect understanding about how to play that deck. And I know it's repetitive for the people who watch all of my content, but that's not everyone I reach. And I don't want to be doing a sector of the metagame. Like being good at card games is kind of fake, right?
Yeah. It's
honest. A lot of contextual knowledge, right? There's a lot of like, oh, I know stuff about stuff, right?
Yeah.
I don't think that like people are stupid for not knowing this. In fact, I think it's my job to inform them of this. And just because someone who watches all of my videos probably does know it, doesn't mean that there aren't people who watch my videos that don't. And there is a point of diminishing returns there. But I genuinely do think that like X amount of people who watch my videos are not watching every video. Those people, let's say they catch one, like maybe you'll catch the best decks video every week, right?
Yeah.
It would be dumb of me to not mention it in every best decks video. It would be bad. It would be me disregarding my obligations as a guy who's going to teach you how to play these decks.
Big air
What
quotes,
is the number one mistake that people who are going to watch this are going to make? Probably that. I got to talk about it. What is the number one mistake people are going to make with Phantom X? They're going to think it's about Phantom X. They're going to think it's a Phantom X deck. It's actually a tech deck. I got to talk about that, right? Yeah. Like, what is the thing that's going to beat you if you play this deck? What is the thing that you might mess up if you play this deck? It's really difficult because I don't want to be someone who's like, you're stupid, I'm smart. Because there's no functional difference in like, IQ's a fake thing, but we'll use it as an example here. There's no functional difference in like IQ or intelligence here. The functional difference is contextual knowledge. What I'm saying when I repeat that is you might not have all the domain knowledge that I do. And my channel is there to teach you that domain knowledge. And every time I assume a certain level of domain knowledge, I am cutting out people who would benefit from me sticking to more basic things. And there's obviously like a navigational thing there, right? Like,
yeah,
maybe it is, maybe I did it in 6 videos and I should have done it in 4. But I think that my job basically is to shortcut you who doesn't play as much as me into being as good as I can. My job is to provide shortcuts. I tell you what I think about the metagame, you internalize that, you're like, okay, I understand why things are happening now. I can go out and build decks to beat the decks Cam is talking about. That's what I think my job is, basically. And
the reason...
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
No, you got it.
I was going to say, the reason this even came up was I caught I caught the pattern. I caught the line. I was like, okay, I get it. Okay, I get it. Okay, I get it. Okay, I get it. And then rewind about 4 weeks ago, I was taking Harvey to the vet. Now, my vet, we call him.
Is he okay?
No, he's 3 months old. Like he's got shots he's got to take. Right. That's all. So I took him to the vet, normal routines, and the shot was going to hurt. So we call our veterinarians absolutely nuts. We call him Dr. Wacko just because he's absolutely out of his mind. Crazy looking guy, but he's really good, as crazy as he is. And he's the kind of guy that he lets you know, okay, this is the medicine he has to take for pain specifically. It's one in Brazil called Dipirona, which they don't have in the States. But it's like, you're going to take the Dipirona. Got it. Okay, cool. As we're talking, 15 minutes later, he's the kind of guy that'll go, so if he's hurting, what do you give him? Like he's quizzing me. And he does it within an hour, four times in an hour. That's 4 weeks ago.
I get that.
Wait, fast forward last week,
and he's
go
like,
back.
Yep.
We go back last week for his next round of shots. And he starts the process again. And I'm like, I can't do another 4 more questions of this. I can't. I get it. And that's exactly how I felt when I heard it. You have
every right to feel that way. You have every right to feel that way. Just like I think for me, my driving thing is what I don't want to be is misunderstood. I don't want that. And I am someone, all my videos are off the cuff. They're not scripted. So there's like a fair risk of me misstating stuff or me skipping over things. And when I do that kind of stuff, it's always bothersome to me, right? Because it's not only that I'll be misunderstood, it's that people will, I would argue, sometimes purposefully misunderstand me in order to get off a dunk, whether or not that's like, because they're making a joke or because they don't like me, right? And one of the things that, like, here's a great example. I did a 8 Cubes episode with Butt, where we talked about Gambit Horseman of Death. And I was like, I realize he's like maybe a little bit too good to be as annoying as he is, but I don't think this card is nerfable on power. And if you put a gun to my head, I would say they shouldn't nerf him. And I announced the Gambit change. He's going to 3/5, destroying only 3 things a couple days early because, I mean, shout out to the people at Second Dinner who let me. I don't know if I'm allowed to say who it was, but I got a comment that was like, you complained about Gambit on a podcast and they nerfed him. And it was like, I said they shouldn't nerf him. Like, come on.
Cam, you should know it's always your fault. It's always your fault. Right, but stop opening your mouth.
It's not my fault. It's your fault. It's your fault. You did this. This is your fault now. You're responsible for this. This is bullshit. Not my fault. Like,
wrong team. Wrong team.
I'm gonna start the podcast by saying this is bullshit. And as someone who works for Second Dinner, you're responsible for it. This is all your fault. Like, I think that this is one of those things where it's like, the reason I do this kind of like, I'm gonna repeat this thing over and over, right? Like, I really like, one of the things that bothers me is when I am misunderstood, either genuinely and honestly, or in service of, it's the internet and I just want to dunk on somebody, right? Like, I get it. That's a very real thing. And I totally understand if you don't like my vibe and or man bun and think I look stupid and think I am stupid. I totally understandable. I am not for everybody, right? That's Alex Kocha. He's for everybody. That's the most likable man in the world. That's the nicest man on the planet. I realize I'm not that. And I think that, I wouldn't be surprised if even Alex got some comments that were like, geez, that's kind of crazy. And he's like the nicest man ever who does the nicest content ever. And like the least objectionable person on the entire planet. I don't even know what you'd say, but I bet it happens. And it's just a thing that I realize it's a sort of, I'm Don Quixote tilting at windmills. This is not a realistic goal for me to have, but I try to communicate clearly and straightforwardly what I think you as the audience might be missing about this. And sometimes that'll get repetitive because you've watched 3 videos of me doing it. But not everyone that watches me will. And that's just sort of how it has to be. You know what's interesting is during this time span that you're complaining about, subscriptions, new subs have gone up a little bit. It's like, I don't know if they're related. I have no idea. But if like
for your argument's sake, they are.
They could be. I could pretend they are.
As they well should be. No.
Yeah, like for all I know, they are. It's impossible to actually like do correlations with that. This is a pretty dumbass argument, but I could pretend that they are if it would win me this argument, right? Like that's the key thing.
That means that they are them. That's what it is. It means that they are.
Yeah,
completely. I get it. I get it. You win. You get
also, I should tell you, my big haul came in. I'm currently wearing an NFL logo hoodie with NBA logo pants that I got for an incredible discount.
Nothing says, hey, I work from home, like cheap discount, 90%.
This is like expensive stuff, but it wasn't expensive. That's the move, right? Like, this is a good ass, like, this is great. The shirt, the pants especially, the shorts are crazy good. They're impossible to wear out in public. They have they're just like the giant NBA logo on them. What kind of loser would do that, right? There's a Discord that I talk about football in with a couple other people, and the logo of that Discord is Rob Lowe wearing just an NFL logo cap. So I have one-upped Rob Lowe. I'm an NBA and NFL appreciator here. That's what I've done.
KMBA. There you go.
Yep.
Rob
Lowe genuinely.
I don't even know where to go right now with this conversation.
Because
we've just like taken such a rainbow arc.
I think what we could do is I'm going to start the podcast by talking about Gambit. I'm going to start the podcast by doing that. Yeah,
that's okay.
This is the weirdest change of all time because I think basically every good player that I know was like, they buffed it. And it's like, probably, I think 2 points is quite a big deal. His Gambit's going to 3-5 and only blowing up 3 things. But the way I look at this is like, what is the thing? Like, here's my basic intention. The vast majority of the player base thinks this card is way better than it is at current stats because it's really bullshit. It's really super bullshit to have your board blown up and it feels like shit and you can't do anything about it. And you're like, that has to be a busted card. And then when you dive into stats, and stats sites are not great, there's going to be problems with them. But I think normally when a card is actually as busted as people talk about this card like it being, you'll be able to find some evidence for it where like when you look at Gambit, it's like same win rate as Punisher War Machine, significantly worse than Wilson Fisk.
Waits for the comment about Nightcrawler. Right.
No, yeah. You watch my shit. You've heard this before.
No, but it's true though.
It's just a card that is sort of, there is not an objective metric that demonstrates that it's busted, right?
Yeah.
But it is kind of bullshit. It's kind of like an annoying ass card to have a lot, and it tends to make games not be about points. So when good players are like, they buffed it because they added points to it, I think they also, what they did here was basically say, more games involving this card are going to happen where those points matter.
Yes.
Which is good and not bad. That's actually a good thing and not a bad thing. Now, I'll also say this. I think they went 1 point too high on this. I think they could have 3-4'd it and it would be fine. I think they went 1 point too high on this, and I think they were probably a little aggressive on it. But directionally, like when I look at this card, you know how I talked about like the beaker with Fin Fang Foom? Like here's 100% of his power. How much is wrapped up in the ability? How much is wrapped up in the stats? Taking some of the bullshit out of this card and making more games matter where like his stats actually matter happen. Because like the problem with Gambit is that like there's a million games where his stats don't matter. You didn't play him for stats. Right. You just played him to blow up their shit. And if you blew up all their shit, they lost, right? Like that's it. And just making that happen less and making more games where the fact that he's a 3-5 matter, you know, I think that, yeah, sure. Directionally, I'm with it. Probably a smart thing for them to do. I like it. Probably put 1 point of power too many on him.
I'd be happy with 3.4 version just as equally as 3.5. And as I was sitting and reading through it, the biggest thing that was, I think, missed in the understanding of the devs was they said that one of the biggest frustrations was that it could destroy a 4-cost card. And I'm going to completely, it is a frustration, but it was primarily a frustration specifically for Doom 2099 more than anything else. During that meta, it was specifically the main body of Doom 2099, because you could go Valentina, Gambit, 6-drop, goodbye Doom. And that was the biggest frustration pain point a month ago when they were potentially, weighing out these cards to try to figure out and keep an eye on their balances. What I think they ended up doing is accidentally fixing the real problem by thinking it was that problem. They thought it was destroying a 4-cost card. I think the biggest problem with old Gambit was that it was destroying 2-cost cards, because a lot of the 2-cost cards that you have that are scalers are scaling because you want them to scale in different lanes. Like if you have your Collector and your Morbius, you have your Craven and your Sam Wilson, you're looking at different lanes for power. And if both of them can be completely destroyed, that's one thing. Now, if you know one of them is going to survive because of this change, that in and of itself is a massive difference.
So I would agree with you if that's what they actually said. If they actually said in the notes, we think that Gambit destroying 4-cost cards was like a big problem, I would agree that that's a dumb thing to say. But what they actually said was, we've decided to instead nerf his total destruction output and ensure that 4-cost cards are safe against him. We believe that this is the most fun path forward to give Gambit clearer counterplay as well as total strength, while still retaining the multi-copy play pattern if that's what players want to invest into pulling off. Which I think is a very different point than the one you're making. They're not saying, we think that blowing up 4-cost cards is the biggest part of his strength. What they're saying is, this is my read of it, not every deck can play 5s and 6, but basically every deck plays 4s. And now they know that they have a type of card that they can just count on when your opponent is copying Gambit. And I think that is actually just a correct thing to say. There are now going to be more decks where you can know for a fact what is and is not going to die. And you can count on, I have these 4s, you are not doing anything to me. Even if you blow up all the other stuff, I get to have cards that I know are immune. And I think that is actually correct. I would agree if what they had wrote was like, Gambit's power is in blowing up 4s. No, that's dumb. That's wrong. That's definitely wrong. And you'd be correct to say what you're saying. But I don't think that's what they were trying to convey. I think what they were trying to convey is, we want to increase the class of cards that this guy doesn't do anything to. We want to expand the franchise.
The way that I read it was specifically them tying together the idea of the total destruction output is based on the ability to hit a 4-cost card or not. That's how I read it.
I don't think it's fair to read it that way, to be honest with you. We've decided to instead nerf his total destruction output and ensure that 4-cost cards are safe against him. We believe this is the most fun path forward to give Gambit clearer counterplay. That seems pretty straightforward to me. Like, you want to beat Gambit, play 4s and up. That's what they're trying to say.
I get that. And I think that, as we've mentioned many a time here, I was a big fan of 4-6. Leave it as is.
For the record, I still am.
Yeah. And I understand what they're doing here by just making it more of a they're raising the floor and lowering the ceiling, which seems to be the trend.
It's more limited in scope. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's the trend of this entire patch is they're raising the floor, but lowering the ceiling, because the combo ability of it is what they're trying to mitigate with this, where if you are going to do the copy, sure, have fun, but you're not going to get 8 total costs destroyed if you get 2 of them. You're only going to get 6, with the biggest thing potentially only being a 3. And I feel like this is actually going to potentially, keyword, like potentially be something to really keep an eye on, because there's a small part of me that is having Juggernaut flashbacks. Like the whole feeling we had about Juggernaut going to 4-5 from, what was it, 3-2 previously, or 3-3?
3-3.
3-3, right? When they moved him to 4-5, literally everything that's being said about Gambit Horseman of Death is exactly what we had happen with Juggernaut, which was the top echelon of players and skill players, top infinite, were going, this is a buff.
Same card.
And everybody else went, they finally nerfed his ass. And it's going to be one of those, it's going to back people off, and it's going to take some time. And then the rest of the community is going to realize, oh, this is just a good card, not a combo max out card. This is much better than we think it is.
Yeah, like I think that the way I was already playing Gambit was, unless I was in a very Gambit specific matchup, I just didn't want to copy him ever.
Mm-hmm.
So I was already just like, you know, I'll play one Gambit. I'll play him out on turn 3. Like, I'm just chill with that, right? This is now a pretty great follow-up to, like, Iron Patriot. Like, I think the difference is that, like, at the high end of Infinite, a lot of people had already internalized that copying Gambits mostly sucked. Like, just wasn't a very good thing to do. They would rather copy Sasquatches and V-Hands, so they actually had power with which to win the game, right?
Right.
And those people see this as a buff because now if you're copying Gambits, there's actual power on them. That's why it's a buff, right? Like that's the logic. And I think that's like largely a true thing. I would rather be copying this at 3-5, destroying 3 things than at the previous. I would. I care more about the numbers. I just think that's a better thing. I have greater control over what my point output is, and I'm not rolling like 75 dice in order to actually get paid back for what this card is. But it's definitely a card that, like, This goes back to like my basic thesis of this, which is if I'm playing games where the fact that he's a 3-5 matters and that wins me games, those are games that I did not blow up my opponent's board in.
Right.
And if we're reducing the amount of games where people blow up their opponent's board, that's probably just good. That's it's the beaker, right? The beaker is filled with 40% stats and 60% pure unadulterated dog shit. And now the beaker is filled with 60% stats and 40% unadulterated dog shit.
Yep.
Like that.
Change the small little balance. Outside of him.
Yeah. Would you drink out of that beaker? Probably not.
I wouldn't drink out of either, to be honest. You know, I'm more of a Bunsen guy myself.
But if you were presented with 2 beakers, one of which was 60% dog shit, the other one was 40, you'd take the 40.
You say 40 and dog shit, and I'm having flashbacks to college. It's the first thing that pops into my head. I'm like, oh, God.
Shout out to Edward 40 Hands.
Ye old English. No, God, no. Memories that I don't have.
You know, 2020, that equals 40, right?
What other cards you want to talk about?
Wild Irish Rose. What's interesting about this patch is the entirety of it leaked.
Yeah.
Like that was a funny dynamic because they let me talk about the Gambit thing, right?
Right.
And every other change in this patch was data mined because they have a bunch of bundles with all the cards that got changed in it. Every other patch was just like, we found it on the shop. And they're not even like trying to hide it. They're all named like May 26th OTA bundle.
Yeah. Like this feels
Brother,
a little better
in your new
now.
capacity, I feel like you've got to do something at least to hide it.
Okay, so I want to answer and address at the same time. So
Okay.
I had a similar comment to somebody else earlier where I think we have to also remind the community, as much as I know you're joshing, I do think people do need to understand a little bit about
I would never.
about the relationship between card balance and product. Because decisions on bundles, I mean, you can go on to, any of your favorite data mine sites and you can take a look at potential future bundles that are coming, always subject to change. That's a data mine. However, look how far out they are. If they're not, balance happens every 2 weeks. And this was even a weirder week because we had a mismatch of how patches and OTAs go. Because typically the cadence on a weekly schedule is you're looking at
Hold on.
OTA, skip,
Are you trying to tell
OTA,
me that it's
patch.
a coincidence that these cards that... Hold on. Are you trying to tell me that the order of operations here is not they decide they're going to buff these cards and then they decide they're going to put them in a bundle? That was how I interpreted this.
It's how you could interpret it.
Are you just like, I won't press you on this because I'm pretty sure you're probably not supposed to be like talking about it at all. But I find it very difficult to believe that these newly data mined bundles labeled OTA are unrelated to the OTA.
Anything can be changed at almost any given point. It's a matter of how things get pushed to the community. So, for example, I know you know a little bit of this because you've watched the cycle of the game for the last several years, where something gets programmed into the game and then something has to change. We get a last minute, hey, listen, go update your game in the game shop. And that's very rare. There's OTAs, obviously, which is one thing because those are really just dials just moving up and down. But then if there's like a functional change, like Mysterio is a perfect example, right? They could not have done a Mysterio change in an OTA because that requires a completely different programming synergy, and it has to go out with a push, which has to be re-downloaded so you have a new version of the game. Whenever a new version of the game comes out, if you've ever dealt with any kind of software development that deals with either the App Store or the Google Store, Google Play Store, you don't get anything for like a month. You have any app you submit, any update you submit, it takes like 30 days to get anything approved. So chances...
to be clear, I recognize that data mines are not official and you are totally unable to confirm or deny whether or not they are official or even how those processes were arrived at.
Right.
Recognizing that, hypothetically speaking, the next time you guys are like, hey, I'm going to buff these cards, we should put some variants for them on sale in bundles, which, to be clear, I think is a perfectly reasonable thing for y'all to do. To be like, because I think you actually need to do more of that, right? I think there needs to be more synergy between the game balance people and the product people.
I agree with that too.
Like you run into things like the Star-Lord bundle that's getting nerfed, the Gambit bundle, he's getting changed. And the opposite of that has happened too. They nerf Cannonball, and then a week later, there's a Cannonball bundle for $100. They're like, I think they do need to have more synergy between these two teams. What I'm saying is, probably don't let the bundles be data mined before the patch. Like, that is what I'm saying.
What I'm saying is that because of the mismatch of weekly cadences, that typically has not been something that was done or could be done before if you look at the cadence, because the rhythm we had was patch the following week, OTA, skip a week, OTA, repeat. And that's just the 4-week cycle. And that's how it's been for 2+ years at this point. We had two OTAs get shifted.
Yeah.
So that put, right, because of the onsite. So we had a patch and an OTA in the same week. So even if it was a choice, which I do not know, nor could I confirm or not, even if
I
it
see
was a
what you're
choice
saying.
that those
That wouldn't
weeks
happen.
overlapped, you wouldn't have known about it in any other week because they don't rest on the same weeks and the mines don't push that information at the same time. And remember, data mines are always just snapshots. It's just informational snapshots. So if something else changes in like another like if you go into your game right now and you look in the upper corner, it'll say the version, I think it's 53 right now. It'll say 53 point something. The thing that matters for when you have to go to the App Store is the 53. Everything that happens afterwards, consider those like OTAs. So if something gets added on the back end, like a number adjustment that changes one of the 0.15, 0.09, point, there's like 2 or 3 different points afterwards, right? All those little changes constantly are tweaking. And sometimes those are adjustments to bundles, because you've seen that in the past happen too, where it was mined that a bundle was going to be 5,000 gold and then it releases at $50, right? That kind of stuff, those are numerical changes, just like an OTA. So the game has always had that, but it's never been something that's been consistently identified. There have been times where I've seen it on the data mine sites in the past where they'll say, hey, look, there was a mini patch with this OTA, or there was like a little update, because they caught it. It's not always going to be seen.
Just, you know, at the very least, if you're going to be doing this in the future, just don't name them OTA. Just don't do that. Just change the name. Just be like, you know, Awesome Andy Awesome Bundle instead of Awesome Andy OTA Bundle, you know? Just like make it a little bit more difficult. Like make it so like if I were to see these, there would be some reasonable doubt. Because right now they're just named OTA Bundle and there's no reasonable doubt. There's nothing there.
I have all the reasons in the world now because of this episode to go to somebody in the company and say, hey, listen, can you rename all those bundles KM Best? So that way, when they do get looked at by the community and people then learn things, you're the source and you can be the leak.
That's sick as hell. Hell yeah, do that. That rocks.
Just
that's
like
cool.
that's like
cool
the
shit.
FUD placeholder. Did you see that bug in the game?
I feel like you came up with that idea. You'd be like, oh, Cam would hate this. I love that. That's awesome. Like, that's dope as hell. Yeah, that's sick. That's sick.
Throw me the code.
Like, yeah, Cam Best did this. Yeah, that's awesome. I would totally do that. You have my full permission to just like name the most expensive bundle in the game after me. Feel free. Just do that. I'm with it.
We'll put you as a web shop bundle.
Speaking of which, did you see the price of those swimsuit variants? They're gonna make me pay that tax.
I have no idea what you're talking about.
Really? Oh, you're not allowed to say anything because it's a data mine, aren't you? Okay. All right. Well,
let me make this clear for the community too. For those who didn't see YouTube,
I've done this before with Glenn, where it's like I bring something up and he's like, I don't know what you mean. It's like, yep.
No, and that's totally fine, because a lot of people don't catch every episode of my content either, or see my live streams or on my X. I have accepted a contractor role with Second Dinner. So for context, I don't work for Second Dinner. I am under my company, my personal business, and I'm just like you hire a plumber to come to a restaurant, you hire me to go help out with Second Dinner. And same idea.
Like you demonstrated your utility as a shill, and they were like, we need a shill. Yeah.
Ta-da. So basically, Brady is my boss, who many people know from the Marvel Snap dev videos.
He's the marketing
him in
guy.
The community. Yeah, he's the marketing guy. He's the marketing specialist. And I'll be doing a lot of grunt work, a lot of behind the scenes stuff. I'm not going to be like as forward facing as people might initially think. And no, I am not a Griffin replacement either, because that was something I really wanted to articulate very clearly in my announcement video too, was that when all of this happened, I had no idea about this coming for my potential move to New York, for like all of this stuff. So I accepted a role. We will see what happens with this role. And with that does mean certain things I will comment on and certain things I won't comment on, because it's one thing to talk about data mines as a content creator. Look, people have this information. It's out there in the public like that. That's fine. It's just not something I can go into any kind of detail on unless it's something that I've talked about prior as a content creator, which is everything I've done so far, I think, in this podcast, which is talk about the rhythms, give past examples, went to websites and they show this. Like everything I can talk about previously is just my past experience as a content creator. And I'm still a content creator. I'm still making videos. I'm still doing live streams. I'm still doing that and still getting to have things like this show where I can have an opinion, where I can say, hey, listen, I found a more meaningless buff than the Bucky Barnes buff. Like,
did you actually?
I did. Yes.
Oh,
I did. I'll show
what
you.
was it?
And I was like, before we get there, I was like, I can have these opinions because I'm still creating content, but I'm also not going to shoot myself in the foot, nor am I going to endanger anything about Second Dinner, Marvel Snap, the future. I mean, you got to realize how many things are connected to just playing a mobile game. And a lot of people don't. They forget how much of a business something is until they realize, oh, wow, it takes people to do all of this conversation, creation, promotion, development, et cetera. You know, they might be a small indie company, quote unquote, but it is still, it's still an operation. And after having access for the last, X amount of time, yeah, there's a lot going on behind the scenes. There's a lot to know. Just like learning, like just any other business, you have your programs, you have your rhythms, your routines. So I have a lot to ingest and it's very overwhelming, to be completely honest.
You're at the buffet.
Yeah, it's exactly what the buffet is. It's just load everything on the plate and go. And while we are in conversations like this on the podcast, I want to make sure the community knows if I'm expressing an opinion, it's 100% mine. And it will still be an honest opinion. I will not be shilling myself out.
But the things you're not meaningfully allowed to have opinions on, right? Like data mines, from the outside, data mines are one of those things. Second Dinner people are not allowed to comment on data mines because they're not real. And commenting on them constitutes legally some sort of promise, is my understanding, right? Like you basically comment on them and they become real. And then suddenly if something changes, which is like the company's right to change things until they're real, basically, if something changes, but you commented on it, then you could be nebulously at fault for things, right? And so the reason he was unable to comment on my data mine discussion is because if he comments on it, it's real. He's not allowed to talk about it. And I've run into this interviewing Glenn and Jason and Jules before, where it's just like, I touched on something. I completely forgot that it was like I when I did my last video with Glenn about the FOTA, I was like, hey, remember all these data mine? Like, what about these data mine cards? What do you think about those? Like, it came up and he was just like, what are you talking about?
What are you talking about?
It's just like, God damn it.
That's the safety. That's the safe legal line, I think, unofficially.
I have no idea what you're talking about. And it's like, these are cards that I believe, I'm not positive, but it's very likely that he worked on. I have no idea what you're talking about, right? Like, it's possible.
Right.
Like, what guest has to say to this conversation is, I have no idea what you're talking about. So I guess what I'm really getting at is, if you have any good ways of like maneuvering him into a position where he has to say, I don't know what you're talking about, but like it's to something that's kind of embarrassing. You know what I mean? Like if anyone in the comments has any like ideas for me to how to have fun with this, I would appreciate it.
Go ahead. Try me. It's nice to be able to have my own Second Dinner equivalent of I plead the fifth. All right. So let me show you the change that.
Right. Yeah. What change?
The change that I think was more meaningless than the Bucky Barnes change. Ready?
Hit me. Yeah.
Boom. Hellcow. Hellcow going from 4.6 to 4.7.
I disagree, but
this is pointless.
Maybe it's pretty pointless. Like it's a pretty pointless change. Like I'm not going to argue that it's not a pointless change. I think it's a slightly less pointless change than Bucky Barnes, but it is a card that is much worse. So
it
balances out.
This is a card that looks like it wants to be good. 4/7, good body. Discard something whenever you want. Good body. I mean, a good effect. That body with that effect Does not work.
Would you say it's a good body?
It's a good body.
Good body.
It's a good body. It's a good body.
I actually kind of want to push back on that. I don't know that there's such a thing as a good body anymore. I know this is going to sound like a weird statement, but I just sort of think that Marvel Snap has become so much more about the words on the cards than about like having a good value prop on it, right? Like people, like I used to be obsessed with 3/5s. It used to be my thing, where it's like whatever they want to. Whenever it's like, oh, they released an underpowered three cost card, I was like, they should 3/5 it, right?
Yeah.
And I think the paradigm under which I thought that, 3/5, 4/7, I just don't know if that's true anymore. I don't know if a 4/7 is a good body. Gun to my head, I think it's a pretty bad one. I don't know what that means, but like, I think like what I would consider a good body would be like a 4/9. That's a good body. That's where it's like, okay, yeah, that's nice. That's decent. Even if I'm not getting an effect out of this, I might play it.
Yeah.
And, that reflects a couple of things. Maybe Marvel Snap is a little bit stronger than he used to be. Maybe also 4 costs are a little bit worse than they used to be. But I do think this is largely pretty meaningless. No arguments there. Once again, you have just an unbelievable variant here.
Thank you. It was something that there's a reason people don't play Hellcow. And it's not because it was a 4/6. It's because it is a 4-cost activate, where those are so specific that this card's effect needs to be more specific than it is if it's going to cost 4. Because you have specific targeters like Lady Sif, who also got buffed, who hits a very specific card. And then you've got this, which just says, and it costs 1 more. It doesn't make any sense there.
Well, the problem with Hellcow is that it's such a specifically Hella card that they don't meaningfully want to do anything with it, right? Like, once you get this to like, this card is all about its ability. 100% of what you're doing with it is the ability. And it used to say discard 2 cards, and it was really good in Hella because you discard 2 cards and then your Hella would flip face up, because that's how activates work.
Right.
And that's the last time it was ever good. And that's really the only functionality it's ever going to have at this cost. If it were cheaper, it's like the kind of thing where it's like, if this is a 3/5, maybe Phantom X is like, I'll take a 3/5 that does this. I don't know if you would.
Yeah.
But I think that it's like one of those things where it's the cost holding it back and limiting what the scope of this card is to however much they decide to juice the ability rather than the power. I would say this is one of those cases where they're just doing like a compensatory +1 rather than actually saying like what would make Hellcow meaningfully better. This is just like one of those like, yeah, we might as well. It's a card people get pretty early on. Let's make it a little stronger. What's the harm? And that's fine. It's just not exciting.
Yeah, it's not exciting. It doesn't really change anything, versus you look at, like I said, I mentioned Lady Sif before. She is a astronomically better card and now is at 6 power, where I almost feel like the only reason that Hellcow got a power was because they decided to give one to Lady Sif.
I like the Lady Sif buff just because now there's another 3/6 that isn't Luna, Snow, and Wave. It's bothered me for an extended period of time that Luna, Snow, and Wave are the only 3/6s in the game. And now that is not true. And buffing discard and buffing destroy is just a great way to add more 3/6s into the game. Because the original premise was when these cards came out, 3/5 was as big as a 3 would get. Most things were 3/4s or 3/3s. And these were cards that were costed at downside, right? Not everyone's going to be able to play a Deathlok. They're costed as if they're often a downside. As they evolved into specific archetypes, it became pretty clear that these cards were only ever going to be played when they were not a downside and were instead upside. So you got they got held back a little bit. And I think now we are in a space where those archetypes are so medium that it's perfectly okay for one of their pieces to be really good value. It's totally fine. And Lady Sif and Deathlok are great ways for them to do this. Deathlok is a card that I've said they should buff to 3/6 for an extended period of time. Like, it's just like, you guys should have done this 2 years ago. But I understand why you wouldn't necessarily want to do that, because the stronger you make a card like Deathlok and Lady Sif, the harder it is to make second Deathlok that's actually interesting and have it be out. Like, this is one of the drivers of power creep, weirdly, is that sometimes they like have a card that already exists in the lane. Luckily with Deathlok, I think they just feel safe to do this because there is a data mined card, Tombstone, that you're not allowed to talk about, that is a 2/3 on reveal, destroy the weakest card at other locations. And it's like, well, the second that guy comes out, I feel like I'm replacing Deathlok anyway. So now I have latitude to make this card a little bit stronger, as it should have been all the time. I think that, like, that is a thought process that makes sense to me in my head. I'm not saying that's what they did, but I'm saying that, like, it would make sense to me.
When talking about Gambit earlier, I said the theme of the patch was raising the floor, but not raising the ceiling, keeping the ceiling exactly as it is. That's what happened to Gambit. That's what happens with Lady Sif getting a point of power. That's what happens with Deathlok getting a point of power. Is it just makes the middle of the game a lot more interesting. It makes the priority switches a lot more interesting because 6 means something. 6 is a substantial body, not a good one, just a substantial one on turn 3 into a lane. And I really think, there's a very clear and distinct difference where I do think that the buffs that actually will make the most, besides Gambit, these are my 2 favorite buffs in the entire patch. I think that these make those decks that are so dependent on rhythm and combo so much stronger because you're in it in the middle of the match because your points are keeping up with other people doing other combo-ier things where they get an extra +2 here. They have a second body up here. They have a duplicate of this showing up here. You see the points on the board. You're more willing to be competitive and stay and make your pushes because your point total is higher, but not because you made your you made your Deadpool double in extra time just because Deathlok, which is on the board already, has an extra point of power built onto himself. So that's where I really feel like they did a good job with these 2 enablers of these types of archetypes, because there are other cards that definitely could use the help. And there's so many other things that you could do to change, the scalability of a combo and like, okay, what do you do? Do you make Deadpool ever a stronger card, but how do you do it? No, just hit the pieces, give them overall more pieces of power. And that was, I think,
Can I tell you what surprised me here?
A good season. What?
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought that was the end of what you were saying.
It was basically, I was just finishing the thought. Yeah.
Sure. Can I tell you what surprised me here?
Shoot.
This is a quote from their notes. We thought that discard and destroys win rates would improve more considerably without as many natural predators to outscale them after our large set of changes a few OTAs ago. They did? Why? Like, it's just one of those things where it's like, I don't know. Like, it's one of the, am I out of touch? No, it's the devs who are wrong, right? Like, it's one of those things where it's like, is it just one of those things where it's like, I have a bad handle on how often those decks are played at different elos or something like that?
No. So, okay. I'm going to use your own weekly decks video as a perfect example of how to represent this, right? Rewind a month ago. You open up a video by saying, these are the elite decks right now. We've got 4 elite decks. We've got Sholau, we've got Finfang, right? Then there's all of the other competitive decks that are B tier decks. Every other week, there's some kind of discard. There's some kind of a destroy, normally in the last third of the video, because they're there, right? Okay, so now you've got this giant pool of decks that you've talked about. Shave off those decks from the top without thinking about what's replacing them. Just shave those decks off. mathematically, the percentages of all of those B tier decks that were losing to the top tier decks should automatically start to switch. They should start to increase because you're not retreating against the Doom 2099 deck because it's not a viable deck anymore, or you're not retreating from your Gambit deck.
Because you invented a world that is like composed of a false premise, which is like ignore what decks rise up to replace them. You can't ignore that. You're not allowed to. I know you're doing like you're saying like this is where they're coming from. I know they're smarter than that. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Like these people are all better at card games than me. That's not an exaggeration, right? Like I know that's not something they seriously thought, right?
I do think to a degree that it was, because what I think you're missing in that is the knowledge of not having one of those decks become the elite deck. They are just in percentage automatically moving up. But
right,
instead,
but like that's what I'm saying is that's not guaranteed.
Wait. The chop off that happened, instead of being more distributed over the other 10 decks, it was really kind of distributed over like 4 or 5. And they thought it would trickle down further than it ended up doing so.
I guess my thing is, when has it ever? You know what I mean? Like, it's always the decks waiting in the wings that take over the absent metagame share of tyrants. It's never, because like those tyrants are usually holding back certain specific play styles, right? When you look at Star-Lord and you look at Sholau is sitting on top of the mid-range stuff in a lot of the same way that the current like Captain Carter decks are, right? And you look at Star-Lord, that was sitting on top of combo. That is now no longer sitting on top of combo, but they sort of nerfed a decent amount of what combo is with their changes to Wong and their changes to Onslaught. And now people aren't playing a lot of Living Tribunal. And so that sort of balanced out in the wash. And what actually happened was a bunch of different mid-range decks that were no longer getting sat on top of by Sholau are what rose up to replace that in the aggregate, right? I just find it hard to believe that they were unaware of that being what would happen. Like, I don't think
they were unaware of it. I don't think it's an unawareness or lack of awareness. I think it's just they were projecting that it would trickle down and it would be hitting more of the metagame than it ended up hitting. Where they acknowledge.
I guess my point is, it doesn't though, ever. It never trickles down. Like, it never actually trickles down. What happens is we find out what the next best deck is and we play that. And then what you're really getting at, like, I think basically that they thought by dealing with Star-Lord and dealing with Sholau, they were reducing the point ceiling of the metagame, which they did. They did do that. They reduced the point ceiling of the metagame. But there's a difference between reducing the point ceiling of the metagame and reducing it to the level of Destroy being a playable deck. There's so much more that has to.
Yeah.
That is, right. Like, that is because there are a bunch of other things that are high ceiling that were only not very good because they were held back by some specific play patterns there, right? Like, and because of the release of Mother Rascani. But, like, I don't know. What I'm getting at here is, it would take a lot more than what they did to bring Destroy back to prominence. We would have to rewind a lot of time and a lot of buffs, right? It's not just like go back in time and undo these card releases or fix the things that made them stronger. It's that you also have things that happen like this in between those card releases, right? Let's make Deathlok stronger, you know? How many equivalent changes are there for the archetypes that we now see dominating that got these small buffs when they weren't good because something else was better, and then we end up seeing that actually matters? Wolverine Horseman of War in the buff deck, right? Like, how many other things like that changed during a time when something else was the metagame tyrant? Phantom X got a point of power, right? Like there's a bunch of stuff like that also accrues, where when you do OTAs to the current metagame and then also reduce the power of the things that are dominating in the current metagame, you end up power creeping even without doing it, is sort of how I'd phrase it. Like, if anything, what I'm articulating right now is an argument for them to do more +1, -1 buffs. And to be like, can I be totally honest? Articulating what I'm articulating now makes me feel like they're way better developers than I ever realized. Because the things that you would do if you recognized this, that I'm recognizing right now as we speak, basically, where it's like, there's buffs that you can give out, but how contingent is the player base's desire for cards to get buffed on the existence of certain outliers that you are going to nerf? A bunch of people were suggesting a bunch of buffs. They get mad whenever it's just like a bunch of +1s, right?
Yeah.
But let's say they started doing +2s because +1s don't matter in Star-Lord world. And then they nerf Star-Lord. Are those +2s still the right decision? And what you would do in this scenario, if you were someone who recognized this trap and were concerned with this, is be very cautious with the stuff you were buffing, so that you didn't end up creating a situation where, even though you took the top off the metagame, the floor, like you talk about the floor and the ceiling, right? I perhaps was not and have not been cognizant of this. You know what I mean? Like, this is not something that I put a lot of thought into in my evaluations of this stuff. My stuff is one of my flaws, in as much as like doing content about this stuff, is it is very temporal.
Yeah.
It is, and my viewpoint is temporal almost by necessity. It's about the time that it happens in. And they don't have the luxury of having a temporal viewpoint. They have to be forward facing. They can't just be like, we're solving this, and then we're going to jump onto the next thing, and then we're going to solve that. They have to be like, does solving this create further problems down the line? And articulating this has made me cognizant of the fact that if I were someone who, I guess it's made me cognizant of the fact that they're all smarter than me, which I kind of already knew, but this is a new way for them to all be smarter than me. Like, it's one of these things where I think a lot of
another way. Yeah.
Right. Like, it's one of these things where I think a lot of people approach card games as like, I can solve this problem. Right.
Yeah.
Why don't they solve it the way I solve it? And their solves tend to be pretty draconian, and that's usually why. Right. And I know that, but thinking about this as a subsection of that, I know how to solve the problem of this card being bad. Okay. But you're doing that in a very temporal context that is defined by the existence of Gambit in its current form, Surfer decks in their current form. You're buffing the card to be competitive in that metagame. What if that metagame contains outliers that you are buffing that card to be equivalent to? Isn't that bad? Right? Like that. And like, one of my overriding things is that I typically assume they know more about the game than I do. And I typically assume they're probably better at card games than I am. And I don't do this just because I like want to suck their dicks or whatever. I do this because Michael Majors is a former platinum Magic the Gathering pro player, which is way better than I ever was, who has written some of the best articles on the theory of that game in history. I read a 10-year-old Michael Majors article a few days ago, and I was like, damn, he 10 years ago was smarter than me now. Like, and I just don't think a lot of people doing content have an appreciation for that, where it's very easy for us to be like, temporally, I have a better solution. And that might be true, but I don't think that makes it a better solution for the game if you're looking at like the health of the game and forward thinking and things of that nature. Sorry. Go ahead.
I was going to say there have been also exemplary moments that are opposite of that. There have definitely been moments where we've seen them look at a deck and we all know this is the problem card, but then they nerf the cards around it because they're really trying to keep the integrity of that card and that deck and that shell. And then eventually it's too long. It's been there for too long of an oppressive player base feel. And then they have to nerf said card, but then they don't unnerf the surrounding pieces. Yep. We've seen it happen just as equally with that too, where I think that the amount of times that we've seen that also speaks to them needing to revisit this new approach with a different lens. They have to say, this was something we had to learn from to recognize, not just identify better where the problem is, which is why I found the Gambit change so intriguing, is the way I'll word it, where I was like, I don't know if that's
interesting dynamic.
Yeah, it was a fucking interesting dynamically. It was a dynamically interesting change.
Yeah,
and
good body.
Yeah, now it is. Yeah, yeah. Gambit got that donk now. Like he's got some tail on him.
That's the title, dude. He does.
Gambit got that donk.
Gambit got that donk now. I don't know if I do that. I think we just say that donk. I think.
Gambit got that donk now.
Yep. Gambit got that donk now. I named my review of, again, another thing you can't talk about. The Datamined upcoming season was, my name of it was, they gave Thanos a gun, ellipsis question mark.
You're making me think back to English of like ellipsis.
The 3 dots.
Oh yeah. Sorry, it's been a while, man. Okay, I use that all the time in my typing. I just call it ...
I could have just said the 3 dots, but I don't know. I like, it felt like it would be weird. I don't know. My thinking was, I said question mark. That's the name of the like symbol. And so I was like, okay, I'll do ellipsis, right? Like ellipsis question mark. That feels like it makes more like I don't know. Maybe I'm just like fart sniffing. Maybe I just wanted to use the big word to make myself feel better.
Do you realize how long it took for me to recognize that Interrobang's name and symbol are the same thing? Okay, this is not the guy to be talking to. How long did that
take you?
Long enough. It took me long enough.
No, I like. Can we get like a ballpark in years? Like over under
Angel
2 years.
Is now a 2-4, and
you know what's interesting about the number 2 is that how many years it took you to recognize that Interrobang's name was an Interrobang?
No.
No,
not that stat. Never. So
second dinner, definitely not sending their best. Interrobang dissed by second dinner employee.
And Angel is a very interestingly, dynamically awesome, kind of cool. Shut the fuck up.
Would you say he has a good body?
2-4. I can say that Angel is a good body now. It actually is a meaningful difference for a card that you play 1% of the time that you're playing anything with Destroy. So it's like,
talk about what a shill I am real quick, by the way.
Why now?
Because I just was like, I started that previous conversation off like, all right, it's time for me to shit on the devs. And then I monologued for 3 minutes and realized they were smarter than me. And it's like, okay, all right.
Like, owned by your own knowledge.
Yeah, like I talked myself into the exact opposite position. Because now my take on Angel is like, you know, this probably won't do anything, but would it be good for it to do something? You know?
For me,
I actually see people, like I kind of think Angel's like one of those cards where it's like, I don't really think that guy should be that good.
I think Angel now, the way I look at it being a 2-4 is if I draw this on any turn, now I'm like, okay.
Yeah.
Like now it's an actual option to play where you want it. Like, you know, you feel good when you play Cable. Why not feel, you know, okay playing Angel? Not good, but just okay. Rather than, oh.
Yeah,
you're hoping it flies out.
Angel's problem is sort of the Muse problem where it's like, what am I playing this in? Or just like, what destroy deck cares about a 2-4? And it's like, I don't know, Thanos. Like you have to start searching, right? Like you're like, what destroy deck cares about 4 free power?
The deck that cared about Angel didn't care about it being a 2-4. And that was Dormammu, because Angel was a card that would let a destroy happen. It would appear, and its whole reason for being there was to later be destroyed for the second skill.
Yep.
That was what Angel was for within the last year. I'd say roughly about the last year. So now you're like, okay. And
yeah, I think this one's actually like kind of nice. Like
it's nice.
Angel's never been good, and just like the 2/4 stat line is definitely a weapon that can make pretty dog ass cards reasonable considerations.
Well, the reason Angel's Angel's not good is not because of any cost or power that's on him. It's because he's a mechanic in an archetype that doesn't want that mechanic.
Yeah.
You think he's a deck thinner?
I just want everyone to know
that
in order to remember the title of the episode, he Discord messaged me. I saw the notification. I just checked it. It's a Discord message that just says Gambit got that donk now.
Yep.
Just was like, oh, who's messaging me right now in the middle of the podcast? And it's this chat and it says Gambit got that donk now. That's what happened there. Would you say Angel got that donk now?
He's got a presence.
Interesting. So for like power scaling here, presence is below donk.
Yes.
Interesting. Okay. All right.
Yeah. Presence. Miss Marvel's interesting now. Like, I'm actually
exactly the same
about
size on the donk presence scale, but a buffed ability.
Not really, because the ability, it's not a presence and it's not a donk. You know, this is more like for her. Fuck it. She's got more girth.
Interesting. Okay.
She's wider now.
She has increased in girth. Yes.
Yeah. She's gotten wider. She now gives +6 to the adjacent locations. And this is cool. I like this. It's a 417. That's gotta be considerable. I mean, you look at Gambit Horseman of War and we're like, okay, we've got something to work with here. Maybe, sort of. Is it?
Gambit Horseman of War? Wolverine?
Sorry, that's what I meant. Wolverine Horseman of War. Did I say Gambit?
Sure. Yeah.
We talked a lot of Gambit and the Horseman and
no, dude, I called Storm the Horseman of Death like in the opening to my video about Storm.
I think I remember that.
Yep.
And that's probably one of the best things you could have done for engagement too.
Hey, I'm not a big believer. Like, this is what I talk about. I care so much about not being misunderstood that I'm just not a big believer in purposefully. Like, a lot of other people will be like, I'll say this wrong so everyone will correct me and engage. No.
Yeah.
My engagement metrics don't matter compared to someone thinking I could like be wrong about something. That's way more important to me.
Valid. I'm interested in this card with the +6 because I'm like, okay, worst case scenario, it's Claw Light, even more so, 4/5 and then giving +6 in the next lane. Okay. I just think I'm more of the idea that as nice as this is, I keep thinking back to like Omega Red, where I wish it wasn't adjacent locations. It was your other locations. Then I think this is like, yo, this is a card.
Sorry, to be clear, you're saying that you wish this had the Omega Red clause where it was just other locations, full stop?
Yes, not your adjacent locations, your other locations.
That's crazy. That's a crazy good card. I'll tell you why they can't do that. The animation. There's not one that's like long enough arms to reach across 2 locations.
But it's Ms. Marvel. They can just, just yoink. If Spider-Man can yoink that far with his web from the left lane to the right lane and pull a card over, why can't she just stretch that far? Come on. It's Ms. Marvel.
My impression is 85% of game crashes are caused by an animation. Specifically, an animation that is also attached to a card that has an ongoing ability. My guiding rule.
Hydra Bob would like to talk to you.
Oh, sure. Right. He's the 15, right? My guiding rule, if I were someone who was making Marvel Snap cards, would be never change the animation on anything once you get it working. Never, ever.
Yes.
At no point ever change the animation on anything once it works, because if you touch one bit of that code, an entire house of cards will come crumbling down and the game will start crashing every time someone plays armor.
I feel so bad for Spider-Ham.
They fixed him.
I know.
He's done. It's over.
He's finally, it was literally
Patch
dropped live. First thing I did.
Yeah.
Paired up with Not My Dance and we tested Spider-Ham because we wanted to see both sides to be like, does it actually work? We were taking bets on stream with the channel points, like the predictions, like over under, guys, go. What do you think? Did they actually, because we've seen this song and dance before.
Fake gambler. It would not be an OU.
Of how many things it got wrong? Yeah, it would be.
Oh, no, that's not what. Come on. You were saying, would it work or would it not? That's not an OU. That's not an OU.
The OU of this was basically saying, is it one? Sure. Because there were 4 different things we were looking at. So it was from
I didn't realize you had a
how
metric.
many points?
I didn't know how to parlay.
Yeah, no. How many out of all of these points you got to figure out what your OU of 1 is, plus 1 minus 1. Figure it out. Go. Is are we getting? Sorry, 1.5. But like, yeah. Anyway, digressing. We're not this, and I'm so speaking of gambling. Actually, you know what? I'm going to stop myself there. Continuing on to Ms. Marvel.
I was saying it felt like a risky thing for you to do.
No. Not talking about gambling. Talking about something with a gamble, and now I lost it because I legitimately can't remember if it was a over under I made with you off stream or on stream. Well, I mean on recording.
God, yeah, we had a bet we wanted to do that we never ended up doing. Yeah, I don't remember what it was. Our audience probably does.
It'll come to me later in the broadcast. But anyway, Ms. Marvel. Are you actually playing it? Yes or no?
Probably not, but I've seen people messing around with like the Living Tribunal, Miss Marvel, Ancient One stuff. I would imagine it's better in Cerebro 5, which not a meaningful consideration, presumably, but is a conversation, presumably, to have. That is a deck that already plays the Ancient One and already plays Miss Marvel and will already do some of that stuff. So I can see this being the kind of thing that will impact the decks Miss Marvel would already go in. I find it hard to believe that it would create a situation where people would be playing a lot more Miss Marvels as just like a stat stick, but I don't really think that's her fault. I think it's a consequence of other things happening.
It's weird because they, at the same time that they addressed Ms. Marvel like this, they addressed Awesome Andy differently because they gave Ms. Marvel the girth and they gave Andy the length. They made him taller. They made him a 2/3, but they didn't change his ability. And I feel like any of these cards that want to have all 3 lanes involved, more often than not, the horizontal metric matters more than the vertical.
I agree, but what I'll push back on is it's a 2-point buff on Miss Marvel, and giving a 2-point buff to a 2 cost is very different than giving a 2-point buff to a 4 cost. Like, you're not making an incorrect assumption here, but
when the 2 cost is the same amount of stats as Mr. Fantastic, I'm not sure how I feel about it.
Right, but like, this is currently the same amount of stats as Mr. Fantastic. You're saying it should be bigger than Mr. Fantastic? You're saying it should be a 2/2 that gives +3?
I'm saying that Mr. Fantastic, which represents small body, the wide arms, right? It's the bigger strength. Ms. Marvel, same thing. She's now 4/5, puts 6s on the side. It should be similar for these types of cards. It should, for Awesome Andy, I would much rather him be a 2/1 that gives +3s.
Right. No, like, I hear you. But what I'm saying is that part of the card is a bigger buff. It is a bigger part of the card. Right. Like if this was a 2/1 that gave +3s, that is a much bigger worry for a card that's being copied a lot. Like, it's not just that it would be points that are significant here. It's not just that to do that would be significant. It's also that, like, that's the part of the card you copy. We talked about with Miss Marvel, how Ancient One, copy that effect. With Mr. Fantastic, what did the arms decks do? Prodigy, Onslaught, copy that effect. The more power you put into the effect, the more it becomes about the effect. And so it's not just that, like, even redistributing the 7 points of power that it is, it would be a buff to go from 2/3 + 2 to 2/1 + 3. That would be a buff. And so, in line with something Glenn has mentioned before that I assume they're still sticking to, is they don't want to do 2 buffs at once. And to me, as weird as it sounds, going from 2/2 + 2 to 2/1 + 3 actually is 2 buffs at once.
But then why did they do it to Ms. Marvel?
Because she's bigger and it's harder to copy her. Like the reason you do it to Ms. Marvel is because you're more confident that Ms. Marvel is 2 points of power away than you are that Awesome Andy is 2 points of power away. Like, Ms. Marvel's 4 cost. She's expensive and big. And it's okay to look at your 4 and say, this is 2 points of power off, and not Awesome Andy and say, this is 2 points of power off. Like, that's a different thing. I don't think you're wrong. Like, that's a pleasing shape. I don't really see why everything has to be like that, but I'm not opposed to it.
Yeah, it doesn't.
I just think that, it would I think it would be incorrect to say that, look at this card and then say 2/1 + 3 Andy. Tell me which one's stronger. I think most people would correctly assess that the 2/1 + 3 Andy would be stronger because you're doing like Joe Casta Prodigy shit with it.
Mm-hmm.
And that would constitute that. I'm not saying they like can't do it. Just like, to me, it makes sense. We talked about these sort of gradual steps. We talked about why you don't want to like overdo it in terms of buffing these cards. But I already talked myself out of my earlier position, it makes sense to me.
I just remembered what the bet was.
What was it?
I'm going to let the audience see if they can remember it from an episode 2 episodes ago. And the fact that it will not be anything I will comment on. So,
was it?
Looking at this OTA, generally, I think that it was pretty well received. Pretty well received. I feel like it was, as it was being discussed, we kind of like, in the creator group and generally, the feeling I sensed was, okay, didn't expect that with Gambit. Okay, for everything else, it just kind of seemed like a regular. Okay, but I think Lady Sif is probably the biggest, most meaningful change out of all of it. Like, when you remove Gambit from the equation, I do think it's specifically.
I was going to say, because this OTA is 90% Gambit. So,
exactly. No, but you got to, because as much as you could just continue to talk about Gambit, sure, that's easy. But outside of Gambit, there were 6 other cards that were adjusted, so you got to address those. We haven't even addressed Muse.
I'd say it's probably Andy, like gun to my head. Probably Andy is the one where it's like, that's just a pretty good card now.
Plug and play.
Like like that's going in my Aurora deck or whatever, replacing Herbie. Now that the value prop is basically the same and I need an activate 2/3, playing him.
Feeling a little better about him. What did you think of Muse, who came out this week?
Good card, bad decks, mostly. Where what I like about him is I can play a stats deck that has Killmonger in it, but I find it hard to support the rest of what he's doing. Like, the comparison I want to make is to Hydra Stomper, I think. And the thing about Hydra Stomper is Hydra Stomper scales without a lot of energy investment, right? You get the Sam Wilson down, you get the Batroc down, you just keep doing that. Muse requires energy investment to scale. Nothing is blowing shit up for free. There's no wasp for destroy. That's like, I am like, so during the course of the game, you have to be playing cards that cost energy to activate Muse. And what this does is it makes the Hydra Stomper decks a much better home for a tech card that wants to sit on the board like Mobius, because they're not taking turns off in a meaningful way from scaling their shit by playing that Mobius. Where Muse, they actually are. You are taking turns off from scaling your shit by playing that Mobius. Because what you also needed to do is blow something up in that location. Well, now you got a Mobius there. You can't blow anything up in that location, first of all. And second of all, you spent 3 energy on it, so you're not blowing anything up this turn. And you only got so many turns to blow up all the shit that Muse is trying to do. And that was the thing that kept running through my mind with this card. It's like, it's not like it's bad. It's not like it's a bad card.
Yeah.
It's just what is being asked of you is asking a little bit much in deck building. And, you know, it's not really a card that goes in a lot of good decks. If I try to get it into Phantom X, it's like, all right, how do I support this? That's a deck that's already playing Killmonger, but it's not really destroying a lot of stuff. So I got to like play a Squirrel Girl and like a Moira X, and suddenly that's cutting into my ability to play Mobius. And it's like, all right, I can't do this. I've just made the deck worse. I added a guy that's a 3/12, but the deck is worse. And then the other things that this card goes in are all these like death decks, right? And that's cool, but Mobius is really highly played now. And if you're playing a death deck, you just get absolutely shit on. And so I like that he's a card that goes with Killmonger. That's cool. Part of me is like, I didn't think this would be as big of a thing as it is, but like, they should let your opponent's destroys count for him.
Oh,
I didn't think it would be that big of a deal.
Scary.
I think they should do that, right? Like, then he becomes like what Pixie is to Mobius, right? And it's like you're playing Killmonger for the tech, you get Muse in there and get some other things going, and you can like maybe actually fit him. As is, you got to fit a lot. You got to fit a lot in that guy. And he's a good enough card, but the decks he's in don't fit the game right now. They just don't. I like that you could be a stats deck that runs Killmonger to beat TOV, but you can't run anything that beats Gambit, and you can't run anything that beats Surfer, and you just lose those matchups every single time you queue into them, and that sucks.
I think the thing that bothered me the most about the card wasn't even necessarily the play pattern. It was the VFX choices, which actually made the play pattern harder to decipher, because he's an ongoing that doesn't update in your hand.
Okay.
And the VFX are inconsistent with the little caution tape on the board. So if you have if he's not in your hand, you don't see VFX tape appear. So
until
if you later
draw him,
until you draw him,
the VFX won't actually happen. Yeah,
but it will register them. So if you like turn 1 play something that gets Electrid, and Muse is still in your deck, and then turn 3 you draw Muse, it's not like those appear. But if you played Muse, he would turn into a 3/6 on the board, but he's a 3/3 in your hand. So it's inconsistent. It's almost like they built it to be like an end of turn.
I think it's much more likely that
timing.
I think it's much more likely that you were just supposed to see the caution tape when you draw him, and that just doesn't work for some reason.
Well, it's not even that. The caution tape is cool. It's a great VFX as it works right. I will say, very cool, very, very cool. But it's not working 100%. It needs to work while it's also in deck.
Right. Well, it doesn't need to work while it's also in deck. It needs to, when you draw Muse, show you the caution tape on locations that happened previously. That's what needs to happen.
Either or. Yeah, either or.
Like that's pretty straightforward. And I assume that they were planning on doing that, and it just sort of didn't work. And like they'll fix it at some point, is my guess.
I would like to hope so. Because as cool as it is, too, that you also kind of get double the amount of caution tape on a lane that you had like 2 destroys happen. I've had that quite a few times, too. I'm pretty sure that's also anything but a feature. Just me looking at it as a player, I'm like, that doesn't feel right. But it's cool, though, because there's a lot of extra caution tape layers. But it feels like a card that will be good, but no one has figured out the right home yet. So like I left day 1 testing feeling like this is okay, and it's only a Dormammu card. And right now, it's only a Dormammu card because of what you said before, which was Mobius and Mobius. You can't play death decks. You want to play decks that allow you to play the small cards that can do the scaling, but you're not trying to play for death. You're playing for Muse. You would love to have death in that deck, but you can't be dependent on it because right now this meta doesn't really allow that. So it's very often death just ends up being a dead card in your hand. So I liked, I liked Muse in the Dormammu build, but I also feel like there's undiscovered patterns and potentials with Muse. Like I started today testing ongoing destroy, where at first I was starting a deck build and we were looking at like a negative line and we just couldn't get enough pieces because of what Muse asks of you, exactly to what you were talking about before, where it requires so much. But then I ended up in just like a standard ongoing list and I'm like, okay, actually there's something here because you've got Ravonna, you've got Null, you've got Mystique. Mystique copying Muse was actually really good. I lost a couple of times to that the previous day. Was like, okay, maybe there's something in this realm. It's like a 50% deck, but it felt better than the 60% deck of Dormammu because Dormammu doesn't have the access to its top end power because it's a Mobius meta. So it was a constantly weird feeling card where if you're a destroy player, look, you're going to love this card. It's going to be a lot of fun, but everybody else, I don't see this becoming a meta thing until we figure out the right combination of Muse and Luna Snow to be like, this is how you're supposed to play the card. Because it's the only other thing I can think of that makes sense for what this card wants of you, which is destroys without needing to have to be reliant on Killmonger.
Yeah, I don't know. My instinct is that the success case for this card is that it is a Killmonger buddy. Here's my pitch. Legally speaking, if I said Muse should be a 2/3, how many tomatoes would people throw at me?
I think you're in the right mindset, but I think you went the wrong way. I think he should be personally a 3/4. Because 2 activations makes him 3/10. That's a worthwhile body, but even just a single activation, a 3/7 is Kraglin. Okay, Muse on a single death, that's a 3/7 body with no downside. I can live with that. That's just a generally good card. Right now, 3/6 to be able to consider that, that's Lady Sif. Muse doesn't really want to keep up with that. You want to be building for Muse where you're going, either I'm going for 1 or all 3. I never want 2. The 2 is what doesn't ever really feel good. Right now, it feels good because you're justifying it to be like, all right, at least it's not a 3/6. It's a 3/9. Now it feels like, okay, this is a Wilson Fisk. This is worthwhile. This is something. If it was just a 3/7 and you just had a Luna Snow in the other lane, because you didn't get the other things to happen, you still feel good about this card.
So the reason I want to go the energy route instead of the power route is because of the dynamic I talked about, where this card is asking you not only to expend energy to destroy things, but to expend energy to play them in the first place.
Mm-hmm.
You have to play the Squirrel Girl and the Killmonger. You have to play the Carnage. You have to play the Venom. The biggest roadblock for me in making this card feel satisfying is its cost. So, like, even if it ended up being 2/1 plus 3 power for each location where one of your cards has been destroyed, I feel like that would still be a more satisfying game piece to me.
I think similarly, you're in a right direction. If you're needing to make it 2 cost, I don't know if I do 2/1 plus 3s. I might do 2/3 plus 2s or 2/4 plus 2s.
Not
like
sure,
that,
but either way, it's like it's
you know?
in the range of Wild Child, right? I think it's probably a little bit harder to do Muse, but maybe a little bit easier to get halfway. So, like, my gut check 2/2 plus 3 is sort of where my head would be at. That's where I've talked myself into.
I mean, that's a 211. That's a big card.
Yes,
That's the biggest two in the that's too big. That's the biggest two in the game.
I mean, like what? Like I don't know. Strong guy's like a 210, right? Can't be better than strong guy.
Strong guy's a 3 cost.
Is he? Oh my god!
Wasn't he a 2 cost?
He used to be
beta?
a 2. Yeah, no, he used. That's the last time I played.
It's been that long since you played strong
dude,
guy.
He used to be a 2/3. They got +7. He's my goat. Anyway, they should bring back that strong guy. Is largely.
I agree with you.
Now that we're there, they should bring back that strong guy.
I agree.
Okay, now that we agree that they should bring back that strong guy, we can agree that Muse should be in that range.
He could look at a 2/7 range. I get that.
Is he actually seriously still a 3?
Yeah. He's 3/3 +6.
I just assumed that at some point they had fixed that and he was still terrible because of course he would be, right?
Yeah.
Wow.
Like just to
my guy strong guy getting jobbed.
Where's my strong
guy? Not even a 3/4? Oh my god.
3/3 +6.
That's disgusting. Cut an energy off of him right now. Secondary. Hey, wait, you cut an energy off of him right now.
Wrong team.
Make it happen. I don't care that you have no contact with these people. Make it happen.
But this variant says that he's 39 and his power would be a 3/9. You can never touch this card anymore.
That actually is pretty compelling. I also have that variant.
I'm not surprised.
Yeah. I think that is a compelling argument to me.
I do what I can. Okay, so recapping on Muse, I just feel like it's very close. Like no one's cracked it yet. But there will be
how close can
deck.
It be if we think it needs to be an energy cheaper? How close can it possibly be?
Well, that's where I was talking about the Luna Snow thing, where I feel like there's something specifically in that type of build where it's about not needing to invest into the destroys. Like Luna Snow doesn't make you invest into the destroys, and it makes it easier to play this card, obviously, too. Because it can happen on the final turn. It's an ongoing. It doesn't matter. It just whenever it happens, it happens. So you're almost never, keyword, you're trying not very often to leave that ice cube throughout the entire match. You're wanting it to destroy because you want the board space. So maybe there's something along those lines. And I think we'll get there. That's going to be the next space I'd venture into with Muse, is going to be stuff with Luna Snow. But it just felt like it was a fun card. And it got me playing Destroy again, because I hadn't in quite some time. Like I was even coping with Archangel, trying to make some things work. That's how I know this is a fun card.
Are you using fun as a synonym for bad here?
Shh. There was something else I needed to. There was legitimately one other thing I wanted to ask you about, because I feel like if anything's going to become its own isolated topic out of this entire podcast, I had an idea, because I don't think it's something that people understand the true power and strength of, no matter what game mode you're playing that has snaps. I don't think the community fully understands the art of understanding a bluff snap. Not in regards to reading it, but in regards to using it.
Yeah, I think Marvel snappers as a whole trend conservative, and there are very few people who are willing to legitimately bluff snap. There are a couple things that I talked about with Butt recently that I think are pretty compelling, but I think a large component of it is that in content, it's very difficult to bluff snap. It is very difficult to be a streamer who is playing at a high level where the majority of their viewers know they are a streamer and the majority of the people they play against are streaming. It's difficult for the value prop of a bluff snap to actually work. So I think there's a lot of model.
I bluff snap all the time and I explain it.
Yeah. Yes. 100% of people that I play against in my ELO bracket are watching my stream.
That's a you problem, though.
No, but that's what I'm saying. I'm saying like people like me model bad behavior because of bad incentives.
Mm.
We are artificially incentivized. Like when you are a streamer who is, by the nature of your own visibility, if you're one of the people who, like, when you click in a Marvel Snap, you're like the first person in the category, by the nature of that visibility, especially when you're in my elo where the group of people you play is much smaller and much more specific, and you've been doing it for 4 years, like, it becomes a lot riskier to do a bluff snap when your opponent might just be, I minimized the stream, but I heard Cam say he was bluff snapping. Or like it just becomes a lot. It becomes a lot more difficult to ask for that. And it scales with how big of a streamer you are. Like, I would imagine this is a much larger problem for like a Dexter or a Dara that their opponent might be watching. And so, like, by the nature of doing content, people who have a larger amount of viewers are disincentivized from doing anything other than what you'd call like optimal plays, less aggressive things. And that behavior gets modeled, right? Someone watches me and they're like, okay, I'm doing this for this reason. It's like, no, it's actually because I'm a huge coward. That's actually what's going on. It's not because it's not game theory optimal for me to snap. It's because I'm a huge coward that I think that when I snap, there's a 10% chance they open the stream to figure out why I snapped. And that 10% chance is enough to make me not do it a lot of the time. And because, like, these are all decisions that get made on the margins, right? What do I think the expected value of this is? And so X percentage of that being taken out of my hands, like, this may be a correct play if I'm not streaming. And to be clear, there are different things that I am allowed to do off stream and on stream. 100%. It's not even close. I am allowed to do things off stream that on stream I would not do. There is a difference in how I play that is just sort of fundamental to the nature
how
of
you play.
Content.
You were talking about things that you do off stream that you don't do on stream. And I started thinking about Twitch TOS. I was all over the place there, man.
Yeah, excellent point. Started thinking about your future employment, things of that nature, right?
Yep.
Those epic sax parties, if you know what I mean. Can't do those on stream. Yeah. I polishing my horn aside, I think that, you like that one?
No, I really didn't.
Yeah. Yeah, you loved it. You loved that shit. You DM you
another title of the stream now.
Polishing my horn aside in title case. That's great. Yeah.
A/B test is going to be fun.
Yeah. Speaking of TOS, I think that largely it is a lot more advantageous to bluff snap than you'd realize by watching streamers like me. A lot more.
Have you ever realized that you don't say the word you just say the word largely?
I have a couple of those. I think that one of the other things I do is that one right there. I think that, right? That one's there. I have a couple of verbal tics.
Generally speaking.
I also extend eyes, right? No, but like when I say
super long,
I'll push back on on aggregate. That one's a real thing I'm saying. That one is like what I'm trying to convey when I say that is not in every instance.
Yeah.
But in a large enough amount of instances for it to be generally true. That's not a verbal
I understand
tick.
the meaning of it. The cadence of KM is looking for his next point and trying to think of the correct words to articulate so that way he's not misunderstood. There's a pause. Largely.
Right, but again, that's the same thing. I'm conveying the same thing.
Right.
Yeah, like it's not like I'm doing it because I don't have a word. It's not an It's a please don't take the next sentence and then quote it without me saying largely. You know what I mean? Or generally. Like it's a way of saying like this is what happens most of the time, but not all of the time. Because if you say something happens all the time, someone in the comments is going to be like, that didn't happen to me. And like that's it's a verbal tick that is born of the interplay between a creator and the community rather than something that like is purely a replacement for the word it is more denoting
No, I was gonna say, and it's an interesting dynamic at the same time.
Oh yeah, it's a very interesting dynamic.
Yeah, when you're assessing something, especially when you're assessing yourself, because you're taking in the community. Yeah, and you're trying to take in the community feedback at the same time, which is one of my ticks. At the same time, that one I know.
Oh,
is
I
one
thought
of
community feedback was one of your ticks.
It will be
I think
soon.
you say that one a lot. I think
it
that
will
one
be
comes
soon.
up a lot. Yeah.
No. Damn it! I lost my point. Continue.
That's also one of your ticks. I had another joke where it's like self-assessment as a sort of synonym for polishing my horn. Like I think that's what I was trying to go for. It might have been a little too subtle there. That's where I was like trying to slide that one in a little bit. Like I love self-assessment, et cetera, et cetera. You get where I'm going with this. You just got to understand where you measure up, and that requires rigorous practice.
Maybe continuing this podcast was a bad idea. Oh my God.
Yeah, I think it was a bad idea. I'm gonna get you fired.
God, I hope not.
On the other hand, the upside is you maybe look like the cool dev, right? For putting up with it.
I like that framing.
Yeah.
But then I'm trying to take that framing away from Brady because I'm pretty sure that's his entire shtick.
Right. You don't want to well, I think to be honest with you, I think you might be a little bit biased by being someone in the creator program. Because I think if you asked a lot of creators, that's how Brady comes across. He's like the cool one, right? He talks normal, he's not giving us PR speak. I don't know how much of that happens outside the creator program, actually. I haven't really tracked it, but I think like the vast majority of my interactions that I've had with Brady where I'm like, oh yeah, this is the cool guy, right?
Yeah.
Those have all been NDA'd interactions. So I think you might be in the clear.
Without any kind of doxing, I'll confidently say Brady is exactly what you get.
Yep.
That's just who he is. That is exactly who he is. And it makes it so much nicer to be a part of a team with somebody that can be themselves, where I can be myself, which is basically this, just quieter, a little bit quieter. And we just, to be honest, we give each other shit nonstop. And it's just a great understanding, which is why it's such a unique opportunity where I'm like, you know what? If I'm going to go into this like this is a really good way to do it. So I can appreciate it. You have anything else you want to talk about this week? Because I mean, I just realized we've been talking almost 2 hours. I don't know how much of the beginning we actually end up using. I'll figure out how we edit it later. But
we talk about this being 2 hours and it ends up being 1 hour 15 because there's just 45 minutes of unusable garbage.
That's happened before. There have been recordings where we've recorded for like 2 hours and 20 minutes, and then the episode posts and it's like 1 hour and 40.
$1.30, yeah.
Yeah. We talk, man. So, but
yeah, it's the skill set. In as much as I have a skill set, it's definitely not being good at card games. There's a lot of people who are good at card games. My skill set is being able to improvise 20-minute videos and then edit them down to 18 by cutting out all the times where I'm sneezing during them. That's my skill set.
That's because you have a cat. And
I don't even cut out all the times that I'm sneezing. I miss those sometimes. I leave those in. Someone sent me a GIF of me doing this that they'd had on their computer for 2 years. That was from just like a segment.
On,
yeah.
Like,
that I just evil. Like forgot to edit out of a video. Yeah. And they just had it for 2 years. You could tell it was like 2 years old because like there were unnerfed cards in there.
Or I was going to say by the man tail.
No, the bun looks kind of the same size no matter how big it is, which is weird because it isn't. But because of the angle, you can never see that like it's actually that big. It's like there's like 2 wraps around it, but like nobody can tell for some reason just because of the angle of my head a lot of the time. Do you have any final horn polishing before we sign off?
I'm good.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure. It's got to be shiny, you know? You got to put the work in. You know what I'm realizing while looking at this is I'm pretty sure that horn polishing, I bet there's a Thor writer that's made that joke. It's got to happen. Like, there's just no way they just sort of like left that on the floor.
I'm going to hit stop recording now.